Okay, so unfortunately you're going to get a little message about recording. So thank you for that. So again, welcome if you're joining via the recording and are not here live. We are here to talk today about the dietetic internship combined master's program here at California State University, Fresno. So I will go ahead and get started. I have some general overview stuff. If you have already seen this, it might be because we have done other open houses, and this is the same slide deck. I've updated just a few things, but I'm going to just go very fast on this particular part. And then I want to open it up for questions because this is really, for me, I want to make sure that if you have individual questions that you joined for that we're answering them. But hopefully some of the questions maybe I'll have answered in this very brief presentation. So the first choice is why apply to Fresno State? And what I want to tell you is that I think it's important for you to choose the right fit for you. And so I want you to hear a little bit about our program and make sure that that's the right fit for you because that's ultimately the best. You are in the driver's seat of your career, and part of that does come down to your dietetic internship, and it's super important that you choose where you would like to go. So make sure that the fit is right for you. So hopefully Fresno State is a fit for you. And it's okay if it's not after you watch this. I totally understand that. So in this particular aspect, our program is a combined internship and a master's. So we've taken the 3-year part of it, meaning that there's 1,000 supervised practice hours and a 2 years, a 30-unit master's, and we've combined it into a 24-month program for 2 years. So what makes our program a little unique is that we're offering you the supervised practice integrated into the master's program at various times. Typically, I'm going to go over it, but it is in the part of year 1 and part of year 2, kind of in the middle aspect of it is when the dietetic internship happens while you're also doing your master's level coursework. So we are meeting the Ascend accreditation minimum, which is 1,000 supervised practice hours. We're providing about 1,088, just a little buffer there just in case. We take 11 students to our program, and this particular slide here is just letting you know if you want to scan this QR code with your phone, I can also put the web link right here. Let me see. Oh, I didn't copy it. I'll put it in at the end. This is another, it's going to be more of like just a last minute FAQ because our application is due January 15th. And so this is just the last opportunity if you want to join and ask some questions about anything before you hit submit. That's a little bit more what that will be about, but I can certainly answer some of those questions again today as well. But I wanted to give that last opportunity so students didn't feel like, oh gosh, I don't feel prepared, and knowing that we aren't necessarily coming back to school before all this stuff. So I'll be here in the role of the dietetic internship director to field those questions during January. Okay, now a little bit about the unique experiences here. I do want to let you know that this is, we have on our website some of the rotation sites. I want to mention that these rotation sites change constantly. Our website hasn't actually been updated a whole lot. These might be a little bit newer than what's on the website. So, but even then, these are changing constantly because we get programs that are saying, I can't take interns now, or hey, I'd love to start taking interns now. And so, you know, it's an ebb and flow as to how that goes. But, you know, what I can tell you is that we focus on spending, you know, a good solid chunk in our clinical area because that is super important. So you're getting about 10 weeks in an environment where you are in a clinical setting and getting exposure that way. We also have hospital large food service. So you get to see like a large hospital's food service. We also do school food service. And then I think what really makes us unique compared to many of the internship programs in California is that we're only like one of 2 programs that actually offer rotations to our prison system. And so this is through the California Department of Corrections. And so you get placed at a different, so not every intern goes to the same prison, obviously, but you would go to a prison site and that would be some food service. And usually depending on the site, there's also some clinical that you can get from there as well. And then we also have community nutrition, so you will be able to spend some time working with our community here in the Fresno area. So I do think it's important to kind of understand a little bit about our community as you think about applying here, but we're a smaller community, but we do have lots of different cultures and ethnicities represented, and I think that makes us super unique. We also offer a 3-week elective where students are able to kind of secure their own elective, meaning that if it's not something that's in our lineup, but it was something that they wanted to do, we can certainly get a affiliate agreement with an agency if they're willing to take you as an intern and let you have that type of experience. It also can be building upon different skills that you have. So if there is something that you already are very, very interested in and want to do even more of, then the elective time is the time to do that for you as well. So I can answer more questions if anybody has any questions about the elective in a little bit. This I did update. So this is something that's newer and I need to get these on. I just literally did them today, this morning. So I need to get them up on our website, but this is our newest roadmap that we have. A change that we had to our dietetic internship is that we used to offer a project and a thesis only, and now we're able to offer a comprehensive exam. And so this is just updating a little bit more of what the pathway looks like. But to like I had mentioned before, you'll start in your first year in the fall. You'll be taking courses and we'll start to orient you and onboard you into the rotations, but you don't actually start your supervised practice, real practical experience where you're actually in the hospitals or in the community settings or in that environment until the spring of year 1. So this line is just kind of is breaking up year 1 versus year 2. So then in year 2, you're going to finish doing a little bit more of your clinical field work. So we call it part 2 or phase 2 of the clinical work in addition to the coursework that you have. So there's courses that you'll take. You'll take statistics. You're going to take advanced counseling. We have an RD professionalism, which is a little bit more about understanding the competencies and the requirements for getting you onboarded with the hospitals. And then we have a research methodology class. So you will be learning, and this is a master's that prepares you to do research. You don't have to do actual research in your own capacity, but you'll be working alongside those that are doing research or using data sets to learn a little bit more about research methodologies. We have a seminar course that you take over different semesters. And so sometimes you might be working on building a poster. It might be writing an article, trying to get it published. So some of those things are some of the things that happen in the seminar courses. We have a food, nutrition, and health course, which is also another one that still focuses on emerging trends in nutrition, as well as looking at it from a research lens. And then in the end part, this is where, if you notice, you're no longer in rotations, but you're preparing for your comprehensive exam, which is given in this particular semester. And so this is what students need to pass. And so part of that is it's kind of like a booster to kind of really help get your self-efficacy about feeling comfortable for taking the RD exam. So we'll have some RD like questions and things like that, but we'll also have, because you're taking master's level courses, we'll have some comprehensive exam stuff that's related to research, and the coursework that you had with the seminar and the advanced counseling and whatnot will also show up in that aspect as well. And then we also have a class that actually does start just preparing you for the RD exam prep, like the preparatory, just to get you to pass that exam, because we want you to feel like you are ready and prepared. So that's a little bit about the program and how it lays out. What I do love about the program at this point is that you do have a break. So between after year 1, you have the summer, and there's nothing going on during the summer. So you're able to work or do something else. Or if you're not from here, you can go back to your home place and then come back to us again in the fall. One thing that's not on here is like right in here between the fall and the spring is where the elective falls. So it falls typically in January. So our year 2 dietetic interns right now are getting very close to getting to do their elective rotations before they come back for their spring semester. So that's just a little bit more about the program. I'm going to go ahead and move on. A typical week might look like we mentioned before, you can be in a clinical setting. You're going to spend some weeks where it would either be a 1-week rotation up to 3 and actually 4. I didn't correct that. So some of our rotations are 4 weeks. What we're finding is that interns actually enjoy being in places a little bit longer. They used to like to have more variety and shorter amount of time, but now they're seeing that, you know, the longer sometimes is it gives you a little bit more autonomy where you're at to do the things that you like to do. So Mondays typically will be in classes. You'll have your graduate level courses. It's usually about 6 to 8. Sometimes you'll have on the first year, you might have a Tuesday or a Thursday night class, just based off of the fact that it's hard to get all the classes in on Mondays. But Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Fridays, when you are in rotations, this is when you will be going to your preceptor facility sites. So you'll have class on Monday, and then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, you would be a dietetic intern assigned to a preceptor affiliate site. So it really is, when you get into that aspect of it, it is really like having a full-time job, because it's 8 hours a day. And then it's also school full-time, meaning that you're a full-time master's level student. So you still have homework. You might have homework in your uh, rotation site as well. So sometimes there's double homework. So it's just kind of something to think about, that, you know, students will ask me, can I have a job? Well, when you're really in this intensive part where you're in the spring of year one and in the fall of year two, that's the harder time for students to have employment. But it doesn't mean that students aren't doing that. And I certainly have never restricted anyone from doing that. And I don't think that we plan to, though, unless we notice that you're not making and passing your competencies and things are happening where we would have to say, hey, we need you to give up your job so that you can focus on your work. Okay, so the program cost, this is on our website, and this might be just a smidgen outdated because I was just on our website. So the best thing to do is actually go to fresnostate.edu, and then you could just type in tuition, and then it will take you to the master's level to kind of see. But roughly, if we're talking about tuition cost for both semesters, it's about $8,400. It's a little bit more than that now. But it's roughly around that amount. Like I think it's 9,000 something now. And then if you're out of state, you do have to add on some units. It costs more per unit. So it's probably going to be more like 15,000 or 16,000. I didn't actually do the math on that one. But there are student loans that you are able to take. You can take up to 2,500 each year for federal student loans. We are able to offer that. Not all internships do. So that's something to think about when you're applying places. And then the other thing is that we would encourage you to, there's lots of scholarships out there. So don't get discouraged by this. There's also a lot of the agencies that are around the valley, because we're designated, you know, high healthcare need. A lot of the places have student loan forgiveness. So if you work for an agency for longer than 10 years, they forgive your loans. So something to think about. This is just some advice from past interns that they just have talked about, you know, different things, but I don't want to spend a lot of time on this because we're pretty much almost to the end of the presentation, where I'm just going to tell you about the criteria, and then I want to field anybody's questions that they do have. So if there are students that have questions, I would certainly take them at this time. Oops. So the criteria, gotta click back. So sorry. One back, one back, one back. No. One more time. Let's try it again. Hang on. Okay, there we go. Should be able to see it now. So criteria is that you do come to us with a degree, or like right now, even if you don't have your degree yet, but you plan to have it, your DPD director will sign off on that. And then you will have a verification statement, and you will have a cumulative and an overall GPA of 3.0. However, I want to point out that if it is lower, you should contact, I am the interim DI director right now. So please reach out to me and we can talk about that. We have made exceptions in the past, and so that's not like a hard and fast rule. You do need 3 letters of recommendation. It doesn't matter who the letters of recommendation are from. I would encourage you to have those that are going to write you the strongest letters. Those are the ones that you want in, because your letter is super, super important in that respect. And so is your personal statement that you craft. We have some preferred qualifications, and that is that you would have some work experience. It could be paid or volunteer, or meaning that you could have both in the dietetics areas. And the more that you have it diverse in the different like areas, meaning clinical, food systems management, and community, is very helpful. And then good things to know is that we do, once you are accepted as an intern in our program, that the hospitals and preceptor affiliates that we work with do require criminal background checks. They do require certain immunizations, and they may require fingerprints and a drug screen. So those are just some of the things that are going to be required of you when you come. If you have any questions about those, please feel free to ask me. We do not have a GRE requirement any longer. So yay, that you don't have to spend the money on taking that exam to apply to our dietetic internship. And the only fee that we ask for is for the Cal Apply. So we don't even get the fund that goes just straight to the California University system. So we're not charging you to apply for our program separately. So that's all I've got for you. If you need my email address, obviously it's here. But I want to go ahead and field questions. So if you want to raise your hands or let me know if you have a question, I will certainly take questions. Okay, so Abigail, I see your hand up. So how can I help?
Thank you so much for all the information. I appreciate your time and explaining all of these things to us. I do have a few quick questions for you. So,
Mhm.
one of the questions is, as you're reviewing applications, what are some of those core qualities in applicants that you're looking for?
Oh, yeah, good question. So what I want to do, I should probably do here is I want to let me move some things around on my screen and I'm going to stop sharing this. I think it's very important that I show everybody our rubric. One of the things that I did my dissertation on was um, transparency in application dietetic internship admissions practices. And so a lot of the internships don't necessarily display this and or that's harder to find. And so I want to make sure that everybody knows where it's at on our website. So let me go to this and then that will tell you kind of how we score and what we're looking for in those candidates. So I hope that this answers your question. So let me go here. Okay, I'm almost where I need to be. Okay, so let me hit share screen now. Desktop 2. Hmm. Okay, so you should be seeing my screen now that has our Fresno State website. So this is the dietetic internship that I was at the homepage. What I did was I went down to admissions and application. I went there, which brought me here. And then if I scroll right down here to the dietetic internship application evaluation rubric, here's my rubric. So when we open this up, this is what we're looking at for our overall candidates. Am I going in the right direction, Abigail, to answer your question?
This still helps with my question. I was more asking like specific qualities of successful interns, more
Mm,
so like characteristics,
got it.
like self-directed leadership, what core qualities you specifically would look.
Got it. Well, so it will come back to like all of those are kind of going to be embedded in how you present your personal statement. What I can say that I think probably helps interns is some of the skills that in any internship that are going to be looking for is that you are able to work well independently. For example, our internship, you go one-to-one with preceptors, so you're not going in a cohort. And so therefore you need to be able to work well with little supervision. You need to be okay being on your own. You will want to be able to, feel like you can ask questions when you need to and be able to. Also, sometimes the qualities that make the interns the best are the ones that I feel like get a better experience sometimes is if it's slow and there's not a lot to do and they're like, well, you can go ahead and go home because there's nothing else for you to do. If you come back and be like, but I would love to do something else. Can I, and they get a little bit more out of it, right? Because they've asked for some additional work or something to do. And so that's always like they're like, they wouldn't have asked me to do that, but I offered, could I help with something else? And so they sent me here and I got to learn this. So it's more about like being like self-starter and just always wanting to learn being able to work with a team, because the other part is that, you might be in a rotation that is not as challenging, and then there's an intern that is in the challenging rotation, and you're there to be their teammate and help them and pump them up and be like, you got this, you can do it. And, same, all of that kind of stuff, I think. Makes the experience of being an intern so much better, and those traits. So if any of that stuff can kind of permeate in your personal statement about those characteristics that help make them successful, that is good. The other thing that I would say is that, no one is comfortable with the uncomfortable. Like, I can tell you, like, that's just the way that it is. But the more that you can embrace the uncomfortable, the better the experience, it is for everybody. So that would be another way that I would say it as well, is that, just knowing that every day is different. And yes, it's super frustrating where you go in, you don't even know where your desk is. And, if you have where to put your lunch, and, just all of these little minute things that we take for granted sometimes when we've been doing something for so long. And, just being able to be like, well, it's one more day down. I only have, so many more left. And, taking it with that kind of, just kind of growth mindset rather than the deficit mindset, I definitely think will be great characteristics.
That's really helpful. Thank you for your answer. I appreciate it.
Okay, good. And I did see that Minnie Yu has a question as well, but I just wanted to make sure that everybody did see this about the scoring rubric, because this is important of how we score. And this is the other big picture, is that I want students to see, when you think about academics, it's really only 12% of our application. There's so many other areas besides just academics that are super, super important to make sure that when you portray your application to us, that we want that you get that full credit for, so to speak. So definitely your letters of recommendation have a heavy weight. Your application, with the things that you're putting in there, there's an interview, there's your personal statement, that type of stuff. That's almost 40%. So it's about you presenting yourself to us in that regards, as to what you have to offer. So I'll stop there, and then now I will check with it. And so the question that I hear many you or read, it says, hi, is there a percentage for an acceptance rate? So I think I just want to make sure that I'm understanding your question. So we take 11, and the amount of applicants that we typically have in a year or in an application cycle is about 30 to 35. So the acceptance rate on that, it's probably 70-30 split, I guess, is what we're looking at, as far as the acceptance rates go. So I hope, did that answer the question for you, Minnie Yu? If you could just give me thumbs up or thumbs down. Got it. Okay, perfect. All right. Is there anybody else, or even as we talked about this, other questions came up? Please feel free to raise your hand, and I can certainly take those questions as well. Okay, all right. So Fatima, please go with your question. It's okay to come off mute. There you go.
Hi, thank you so much for the information.
Mhm.
I go to Cal State Long Beach and I'm about to graduate with my bachelor's, but
Uh-huh.
unfortunately the program that I entered doesn't have the DE verification submit. Is there something else that a necessary requirement? Is that uh
Okay, good. Yeah. So
optional? Is there an alternative?
yeah. So I just want to make sure I'm understanding the question right. So for your question, Fatima, you're saying that where you did your coursework for nutrition doesn't offer you a DPD verification statement. Did I understand that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Yeah. So unfortunately, our program is not considered like a graduate program that is able to accept you without having a DPD verification statement. So unfortunately, our program does require that you have the verification statement. So if you're not able to furnish the verification statement, or even if you're in a program now and you'll be done by the time you would apply to this program, or be accepted into the program, there's a declaration that that person signs. If you don't have that, then this won't be a program that you'll want to apply for, because we can only take you if you've had that. But there are other programs out there. It's just ours is not one of them.
Thank you so much. Do you have a question? Do you know about how long it does take to enter a program that provided DPD verification?
Mm. Yeah, good question. And then that does also vary based on programs. So you'll want to do your due diligence of trying to find them because some of them are, some of these programs that I've seen are offering it and is as short as like 11 months. And I thought that was really, I don't know, like it just seemed like a lot of information to be able to get you through and get the competencies and get everything through for that aspect of it. So, but I've seen some as short as 11 months, and I've seen other ones as long as 2 years, where they're combining the coursework, any extra coursework, if they felt that you know needed to have other courses involved, like with nutrition or just the master's level courses. That so it just depends, I guess, on um, what they look at your prerequisites for. So what typically will happen is they'll waive certain classes if you've already had them, if you come in with a with some nutrition courses. Um, and so that might change the trajectory of how long it would take. So I'm sorry, it's more individualized.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Um, okay, so any other questions kind of boiled up at all while we were doing this? Yes, Abigail.
One other question that I have is, so once we submit our applications to whatever programs, and specifically for Fresno State, when does your program typically start reviewing the applications? And at what point do interns start, or like future interns start hearing for if they're going to have an interview, if they're
Great question. So let me go back to, well, I can certainly say that. So our application deadline is January 15th. And what we try to do is we know that we have to notify you by March 1st. And so what typically happens is that what caught us off guard last year was the first year where we had to change the dates. And so it caught us off guard where we didn't have everything situated properly. And so we weren't on it as fast as we should have. And we interviewed later, meaning that we interviewed at the latter part of February so that everybody was notified by obviously March 1st. Normally, we try to do interviews ahead of looking at all of the application review. But when we did it this way, the preceptor, the selection committee that was on the panel actually enjoyed having reviewed the applications first before doing the interviews because then they kind of felt like they knew them a little bit better. So we've been doing it both ways. So I'm not exactly sure which one that we will do this time because we're recruiting for our selection committee right now, and it's going to be kind of based off of what everybody wants. And of course, the internship director, Professor Clark, is coming back right when all of this
Mhm.
is happening. And so some of it I'll handle, some of it she'll handle. So it's hard to say.
Right.
But what I want to say is that in our program, and not all programs necessarily operate the same way, but if you are invited for an interview, that is a good thing. That means that we are actively looking at your application. So I know that people want to know, and they're like, oh, if I'm being invited, then I'm definitely being looked at. But sometimes, like I said, in the last year, we invited people late, but we were still reviewing their applications. So, um, but so I just don't have an answer yet.
That's understandable. So, if I'm understanding you correctly, it really depends on whether you do the interviews first or you review the applications first. Is that
Yeah,
okay?
right.
So would it be sometime in the month of February? Is that typically, is it
Yeah.
any sooner than that ever, or is it usually at the earliest in February sometime?
Yeah, we usually try, like what I try to do is that once we get all of the applications in, so in a perfect world, we get the applications in on January 15th. By the end of January, I will have extended interview dates like that are like the right end of January, the first week of February. And then we allow all of February for our selection committee to review. That's how we've done it in the past, although it was because this was a month earlier, this was a month later, because they changed all these
Mhm.
dates. But that was how it worked. This last year, what we did was we got the applications. We were a little behind at processing, getting them out to the selection committee. So by the time we got them out to the selection committee, we needed to book interview dates at the end of February. So it could be like that last week of February. But we need to give you guys time to get, make sure that we're not like, hey, let's have an interview tomorrow. So we want to give you
Right.
time too. So that was the other part of like why it got pushed back further. Like, okay, we'll notify them all during this and then they can self-enroll. And so the other thing though that I would say, and this is for any internship, is this monitor your email address, like your emails as best you can, because that's how we're going to communicate with you. And I think
Hmm.
most of them are going to do the same way. And so like for mine, when I will send out a blinded email to all those candidates that are being invited to an interview, and then they're allowed to self-enroll into a time slot that we have.
Hmm.
So the earlier someone reads that email, that's the better slot to, if they want to
Mm.
pick their slots of what, I'd rather go on this. Sometimes we do one full day, sometimes we do 2 half days. So it just depends, but like then that you look at it and be like, oh, this was the date that I wanted, or I'd rather go the first thing in the morning, or I'd rather be their last interview of the day. Like you get to pick that more when you reply
Right.
earlier.
Okay, that makes sense.
Mhm.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much for your time and for all the information. I think that's all the questions that I have right now.
All right. Well, thank you again. And again, we'll do this other one. And that's where if you have like any last minute little things, so even if you don't have any questions and you still want to join, it's absolutely okay to do that.
Okay.
Because that, there could be other people that had a question. You're like, oh, that was a great question. And it
Yeah,
helped you. So, we'll be here to kind of provide that last minute technical assistance for you in January. But you can certainly email me with anything else.
awesome. Thank you so much.
Okay. All right. Well, you have a good rest of your day. Thank you, Abigail. And
You
thank you
as
for all
well.
of those listening or watching at the recording.
Yeah. Okay.
Thanks.
Bye. Have a good day.
Bye-bye. Uh-huh.